This podcast is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The content shared is not a substitute for professional medical, mental health, legal, or financial advice. Please consult a qualified professional for personalized guidance or treatment. By listening, you acknowledge that the hosts and guests are not responsible for any decisions or actions you take based on this content.
Feel like a grouch, go beyond the couch. Share your confessions on the Aurora Sessions.
Hello, Aurora Healing Crew. Welcome to the Aurora Sessions Beyond the Couch, where we take the stressors that come up in session and bring them into conversation beyond the couch. This is the space where real talk meets real life. Hi, everyone. It's Teresa here. I'm the founder of Aurora Sun Counseling, a group private practice providing psychotherapy for clients in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Our mission is really simple: to create spaces where people can talk honestly about life, mental health, and the things we all go through but don't always say out loud. And tonight, we have Nor'Easter Nick. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks so much for having me. It means a lot.
So Nick Pittman is from South Jersey, and he's a South Jersey-based meteorologist, media entrepreneur, and founder of Nor'cast Media Group. He's known for his hyper-local forecasting and breaking down complex weather in ways people actually understand, which every morning there's a science class. I'm not ready for it before my coffee, but I understand it somehow. Millions of people follow his work across TV, streaming, and social media. And beyond forecasting, Nick has also used his platform to support the community and talk openly about real-life challenges. So welcome, Nick.
Thanks so much. This is amazing. I love your content and your positive vibe, and it's great to be a part of it.
Great. Thank you. I don't think people in my household would agree I was very positive this morning, but thank you for that. I always like to start my podcast with how this came about.
Sure.
So, a few years ago, I did not know who you were. And so my friend Janine was like, check the weather. Check Nor'Easter Nick. I was like, who's Nor'Easter Nick? And she's like, how do you not know Nor'Easter Nick? So I followed you, and from then on, I was hooked. And then you started announcing your book, and you were telling stories, personal stories,
Sure.
deep stories about your grandmother and how you were raised, and that hooked me because I was raised by my grandmother, and that's how I kind of
Right.
come talk to me, Nick. And so I commented, trauma makes us funny. Everything makes sense now on your post.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and Maria Ramos was like, who she's also been on my podcast. She said, I see a future guest on your podcast. And I loved it. I was like, that would be amazing, Maria. Nor'Easter Nick, question mark, question mark. And then you said, I'd be honored. Shoot me an email. And you listed, I was like, and at this point, in all my group chats, I was like, oh my gosh, Nor'Easter Nick, oh my gosh. Fangirling, I'm not embarrassed because I think anybody would feel the same way. And I was like, I'm doing that stat. And I sent you the email, and without missing a beat, you filled out the form. I was like, oh my gosh, he's the real deal. He's going to do it. So somehow it turned into this event.
Sure.
So that's how we're here.
No, it's funny. I remember getting that email. We were on our way to, we were putting our one dog Dewey through training classes up in Medford. And I got the email, and I happened to be locked in because I have really bad ADHD. And
I am aware.
If it's not in front of me at that moment, then it's getting pushed off to the next day. But no, I'm glad that I saw it at that moment. I was like, oh, this is really cool. Filled out the thing, and it all came together finally.
Yes, I so appreciate that. And from the beginning, you said to me, because you were working, you were in marketing mode, and you were like, so what is your, like, do people know who you are? I was like, I don't think so, I'm just a therapist. But you're like, no, that's not what I meant. I just mean like you said your demographic
Right.
was middle-aged moms.
Yep.
And I was like, how dare
100%.
you? How dare you? But yes, we are. I think most of us are. Clap your hands if you are a middle-aged mom here. Okay. So you are correct in that. What made you say yes to this?
I am a big fan of, like I said at the beginning, pay it forward. And I want to help other content creators, professionals that are trying to make their way in this space and, hopefully elevate a little bit and just have a good conversation. I searched through your social media stuff and I'm like, you seem like a really cool person. And I just wanted to sit down and talk.
Yes.
Why not?
That's so nice. I always laugh when people say that they think I'm cool. And and 2 weeks ago, 2 clients said that I was cool.
Well, there
and
you go.
Yeah. What?
You have their approval.
Yes! Well, but my children, I always go back and tell my children, I was called cool today. And they're like, whatever, you're so cringy.
And they're like, okay,
Yeah.
unk, or,
Yeah.
or whatever the kids
Right!
these days say.
I just learned that word unk.
I still don't know what is it. I just hear it.
Like old.
Oh, wow.
Is that what Bill's
Because I just
saying?
had a bunch of people call me unk the other day.
I think you should,
Wow.
do something mean.
I
I'm
think I
sorry.
will.
I just went dark. Sorry. No. Okay. So I really appreciate that. The other thing is when I was reading your book, as soon as I pre-ordered it, I was such a fangirl. I was really afraid I wasn't going to be able to finish the book before the podcast, and but I made it my homework. But I didn't have to force myself. It was such an easy read. It was like a conversation. I just wanted to know what came next, and there was an article you talk about waiting for the mail. Waiting in the mall when you were doing the CBS 3.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I had started doing weather when I was literally 6 years old. My elementary school built this TV studio for us with the help of Comcast. And every single day, it was called the Brigantine News Network. And I remember clear as day stealing NBC 40 graphics and putting our makeshift logo on top of NBC 40. I'm like, yep, that's great. I took out Dan's 7-day forecast and I replaced it with Nick's 7-day forecast. I would ultimately go on to work at that TV station many years later, but watching TV at night, and I saw an ad for Kidcaster. It was Kathy Orr. She was at CBS 3 at the time. And she was saying, I'm going to be at all the area malls, come out, audition, and you have a chance to do the weather live in Philadelphia. So I, of course, run to my grandmother and tell her that we need to go. And she takes me. It was at the Hamilton Mall, back when malls were actually a thing. Mm-hmm. Well, they're still a thing. I mean, Cherry Hill and Deptford are good, King of Prussia. But Hamilton, for anybody that has grown up.
I worked at that Red Lobster.
Yeah, there you go. All right. But for anybody from down that area, it's a shell of itself, and it's kind of sad. But back then, it was the place to be. And I remember showing up, and there were like, 150, 200 kids in line. And you get up there, and they had a script for you to read. And it was the same thing over and over again. The producer would point, all right, kid, do that. Ho, 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 you'll shoot your eye out. I don't know why that came to my mind, but see, there's the ADHD thing. For members of my morning show, you completely understand what I mean by that. But no,
you kept saying the wrong days for this event.
I know.
And I kept having to say, it's Saturday.
No,
Okay,
that's funny. But yeah, so like they were reading the script over and over. I get out there and I'm like, you know what? I've always marched to my own beat, and I wanted to do my own thing. So I memorized the weather for that day, and I look at the camera and I talk about the forecast for that day. And when I was done, producer looked at me and looked at the script and said, well, that's not on the script. How did you know that? I'm like, yeah, lucky guess. But I'd already been doing it for several years up into that point, and I never expected to hear anything. And within a couple weeks, I get a call from Kathy Orr. My grandmother picks up the phone, and she told me that I won. And then I got to go to Philadelphia. And it was at that moment, I always knew I wanted a career in weather, but seeing the lights and the cameras and all that kind of stuff at such a young age, that is what made me want to go into broadcast TV meteorology. And that kind of set the course for the rest of my life. And a full circle moment coming up. Actually, this week, I'm going to be appearing on, I've been working with Fox Weather National for a bit now, and they want me to do a thing with Kathy. So,
Wow.
20-something years later,
Oh, wow.
here we are reuniting
Yeah.
on a national platform. So I think that's pretty cool.
That is, I love, one of the things you said as I was stalking you for this event was, it's funny how the universe works.
Yeah, I'm a big
And
believer in that.
Yes. So being a therapist, it wasn't the actual things that happen that I was focused on in your book. It was your feelings when you were waiting for the call.
Sure.
And I so related to that at the time because I was just waiting for you to say like yes, or like to get this process going. And I was like, Nick, I'm dying a slow death here. Can you? And then I'm not going to go into details, but there was a lot of deaths in that week. And I was like, and he was telling me, I was like, I'm just going to stop talking right now and stop putting my foot in my
So
mouth.
this is why I've made my husband in charge. Well, he basically forcibly made me make him in charge of my calendar and events and that kind of stuff, because I say yes to a lot of things, and it gets to the point where I will double and triple book myself on a day, and things get overlooked, and it's nice to have the help. I mean, people on my own team will be able to tell you that we have a bunch of different group messages throughout, depending on what part of the company I'm talking in. But there are times where Brittany and Will's our weekend guy, are in a group chat, and then one of them will message me separately. I will not answer them separately, so they have to tag me in the group that we're talking in. So
That's
yeah,
funny. All your people know how to corral you.
Yes, exactly.
So that's good. So getting into something a little bit more serious, you talk about your grandmother. You called her what?
Bebe.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bebe. So when I was reading it, it was BB. So it's
Right.
Bebe. Okay. It's Bebe.
Let me tell you something. When I had to record the audiobook, that was so freaking awkward because they wanted you to change your voice. So I'm over here trying to sound like a little old lady, and it was horrible. I'm like, I didn't know how to do it, but I got through it. So yeah.
Oh,
And she
good.
didn't sound like that at all. So
You should be flattered because usually I cheat and do audiobook, but I read your book. So you shared that you were given away as a toddler.
yes.
So because I actually, it was kind of like really, I wanted to know how you got to Bebe, and so I had to go back. And then it wasn't until you mentioned it in one of your lives that you were given away, so I wrote it down real quick for this. What do you mean given away? What happened?
So my mother, to this day, unfortunately, suffers from substance abuse issues, and she has severe bipolar and depression and all kinds of stuff. When I was born, basically, I was with her for maybe a couple years. My father, I think, I learned the story, many years after the fact, but he basically convinced her to give me to my grandmother because I would have a better life. And not knowing that story the entire time, it kind of weighed on me, and it put a chip on my shoulder that, why was I given away, even though, in the moment, I had everything that I needed. My grandmother cared for me, taught me everything I needed. really taught me how to grow up and become an adult at a very young age, which I would have to do because of her later diagnosis. But I still longed for, that Hollywood white picket fence and loving family. And my grandmother was amazing and all, but she wasn't the warmest person. So she was a businesswoman first, because she basically came up by herself and tackled the world, and that's basically how she raised me. But yeah, she took me in 2, 3 years old, and I don't know how she did it. She would always kind of lie to people and tell them that she was in her 60s. I thought she was in her 60s up until the day that she passed away. That when we did the paperwork and all, she was born in 1924.
Oh,
So
wow.
she was raising me as an 80-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And, I'll never forget any of that. I look back at it now, and you know what? It was for the better, because I don't know what path I would have taken if it weren't for her, and specifically the stuff that happened after she was diagnosed with dementia, because
Right.
that completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Yes. So all of that was so powerful, and I just remember as I was following you, like one day you just like kind of put it all there on Facebook. I was like, oh my gosh, like how brave are you to share that with tens and thousands, millions of people? So when you grow up in a situation that doesn't look like Leave It to Beaver, and you're with your grandmother, how I remember as a kid, especially on Mother's Day, it was like really weird. Like I had to like write, like for my grandmother, like, but
Right.
other people had mom.
Sure.
So how did you kind of make sense of it?
Well, I kind of always treated her as my mother figure, because she took care of me as such. But it did feel kind of awkward when, we would have school events and parent-teacher conferences and whatnot, and you're automatically the picture that society paints for us is, oh yeah, my mother's going to be in her 30s, and instead I have an older woman showing up for me, and trying to explain to my teachers and friends at the time, they'd be asking, well, where are your parents? Are they coming to this? And there was always that little sense of not being normal, atypical. But I got through it. I think just fine. But for all those holidays, I honored her just as though she
Yeah.
was my mother.
Right. Grandmothers are the
Yeah,
best. for
100%.
Sure. Yes. So you mentioned that she was diagnosed, or no, I don't know if she was diagnosed, but at 10, that's when she started having
Yes.
symptoms of dementia.
Right.
And in the book, you go into detail about how you first knew something was not right. Can you
Right.
talk a little bit about that?
So to this day, one of my all-time favorite traditions is ordering Chinese and watching Groundhog Day, the movie, on Groundhog Day. Where I did that since I was 4 or 5 years old. So that was our thing. That was our special thing. Did it forever. Well, one night it comes along. We would go to Blockbuster when Blockbuster still existed in Brigantine. Cold winter winds whipping, all that stuff. She didn't remember that it was Groundhog Day. And I remember walking into the Blockbuster, and eventually she came to, but I felt weird. The movie wasn't even there at first, and then I remember the cashier knocking on the glass window. Oh, I found it. So it almost didn't come together anyway, because they didn't know where the movie was. But yeah, I mean, all day it was weird, because she would always talk about, oh, we're gonna watch Groundhog Day. What do you want from the Chinese restaurant? We had one Chinese restaurant in Brigantine, and I would always order the same exact thing. I am a creature of habit.
What's your go-to, by the way?
General chicken, no broccoli, and I need pork fried rice and wonton soup. Like, that is all I will ever get. One time, probably about 6 months ago, I ventured out and I got something different, and I hated it. So I was like, all right, well, I'm never going to try anything different. You know,
Yes.
life is about trying things that are different, but no, not me. Like, never give me anything different.
Yes.
I'll get pissy.
Stick with what you know. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like your husband.
Yes. Now, he'll try anything, but
No, I mean, you met him young and
Yeah.
you stuck with what you knew.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Sorry, I went a different way.
All
Never
right.
mind. Okay. So, circling back, okay.
You know, we've been married for 7 years now,
Yeah,
and we've been together for 12.
I know.
In gay years, we're retired. It's like a revolving door with most gays.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious. Which I did not know you were gay.
What?
No, now I do, obviously, but I didn't know until you signed up for this.
Have you seen my mannerisms?
No, I mean, clearly I have no gaydar. So,
It's broken.
okay. Mine? Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. 2 insults. Okay. Middle age and, and no gaydar. One of the things I was worried about with you was you were trying to protect your grandmother's dementia because you knew if anybody knew that she had dementia, you were at risk of like being
Sure.
removed from her home.
Right.
And so how did you do that? How did you protect her dementia, like protect yourself?
Well, the only people that knew about it were myself, her, and her doctor. Gradually, you know, hanging around her friends, they started to pick up on hints of things, but then I would like jump in the middle of the conversation and change the subject or something like that. But I had to learn how to balance the checkbook and pay the bills and cook and clean and all that stuff that you shouldn't have to do at 10 years old. So I kept the house running. And she was fine to take care of for the first year or so, but then when she really got forgetful and, you know, started leaving like the stove on and when I was at school and I would come home and the house would smell like gas and, you know, that's when it got a little bit more dangerous for sure. But I knew that if I told anybody that, you know, a typhus might come in or something like that, and I didn't want to risk going through all of that. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to take this all on by myself and, you know, get through it. Eventually, I kept it in during that process, but eventually it got so bad that I was away on a train. So we used to go on the train all the time.
Love that story too in
for
your book.
Anybody that knows me, you know that I love trains. I have an entire bedroom of model trains. My husband and I built he built it. I just did, I don't know what I did. I just
You
watched.
watched him build.
Yeah, I watched.
Yeah.
But I put all the scenery down and all that kind of stuff, put the trains together, and I put my little engineer cap on. I go choo-choo, and I have these imaginary scenarios and whatnot, Tylenol. So we were during COVID building all that. But in school, I didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody about anything until my teachers, Mr. Josie and Mr. Joseph, they encouraged me I felt comfortable with them, and I started talking to them, and I started opening up, and I think at that moment is when I realized I wanted to tell my story. But circling back, I was out on the train, and I remember my engineer friend getting a call from New Jersey Transit Police on the radio. They were asking him if they saw me because I ran away. And I was like, I do this every weekend. I would take the bus to the Atlantic City terminal, ride to Philly. I used to dress in a conductor uniform and take tickets, and I had a great time. The stuff you were able to do back then versus today, you'd be like thrown in jail. It's a crazy world. But he told them, no, he's with me. I get off the train, I go back home, and there are cops surrounding our house because my grandmother's on the 3rd floor of the house, and she has a knife, and she's like stabbing the air and saying that the ghosts are trying to kill her. So that was really the moment that we knew that, all right, it's time to to sell the house, and she went into assistant living. And then that's when I moved in with my parents, and that was probably the most awkward and hardest transition that I've made, or one of them, because
Right.
there were a lot of them over the years. But making that adjustment was very difficult because yes, I was privileged growing up. Yeah, things took a downturn, but I never needed for anything. When I moved in with my parents, automatically I was on welfare and food stamps and living on the floor. So the juxtaposition was just whiplash.
And how old were you when
I
you?
was 13.
Oh, okay,
So
wow.
right at the time I was entering
Ugh,
high school.
Yeah, middle school is the worst, and
right.
that's such an awkward
And
stage. Yeah.
I graduated from Brigantine, went to Hamilton High School, and it was just very awkward. One, because I was the new transfer student, that I didn't know anybody. Two, because of the living situation. And three, Hamilton's an interesting place. That there's
Who's from Hamilton? Who knows Hamilton here? Yeah, there's a few.
There's a bubble,
Yeah.
and not everybody. I mean, there's some great people there for sure, but it's a bubble, and in many cases, if you're not from there, you're not as welcome. But I had no problems at all. I have a great relationship with a lot of people there. But as a new kid going into the district, it was a little awkward at first.
So, and that was the part that also broke my heart a little bit in the book, because anytime you have to kind of move out of your secure placement, knowing, and not placement, your home, or your grandmother, knowing what you were moving back into.
Sure.
Must have been like so much dread and
Right.
anxiety. Like,
I remember moving in on my first day, and my mother is just one of the most mentally abusive people that you'll ever come across. And she takes out all of her anger and sadness and whatever else is going on me. And it felt extra awkward because she kept my brother. And I always was wondering, well, what was wrong with me, But they were attached at the hip until the day he passed away. He would do things, and I would get blamed for anything that he did wrong. And it was very...
you were the scapegoat.
Yeah, absolutely. I was an honor roll straight A student, but none of that mattered to her. It was just being mean. And I think, I'm no mental health professional, but I think she was kind of jealous that my grandmother raised me the way that she should have raised her. Because my grandmother was very career driven when she was young, and basically just threw money at my mother and tried to raise her that way. And
Okay.
that's wrong, but
Yeah.
she did the right way with me.
So, when we come back, we're going to take an intermission, and please, have some drinks, get some good foods, check out the sponsors. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about your brother and that piece of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we go, Aurora Healing Crew, take a deep breath like you're soaking in sunlight. Warm, steady, grounding. As you move through your day, check in with your gut. Notice how you feel around others. Your energy is precious. Protect it so you have the strength and light to do what really matters to you. Because life is hard, and we're getting through it together. Thank you for listening to the Aurora Sessions Beyond the Couch. Visit our website at aurorasuncounseling.com to learn more. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Just search Aurora Sun Counseling. Got questions or topics you'd love to hear us cover? Email us at info@aurorasuncounseling.com or drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you.